Our love is stronger than a golden banana.
He's the leader of the bunch, you know him well, and he is finally back to kick some tail. DK, Donkey Kong, is having a massive moment right now. He was one of the standout characters in the billion-dollar Super Mario Bros. Movie. He has his own amusement park, and he is starring in one of the flagship games of the Nintendo Switch 2 in Donkey Kong Bonanza. But this isn't the first time Donkey Kong was having a moment. No. In the 1980s, Donkey Kong was an instant hit in his breakout game, Donkey Kong, where he and Mario first premiered. And while Mario would go on to become the franchise mascot, this wasn't the end for old DK. In the 90s, Donkey Kong had a similarly massive moment after the video game company Rare revived the giant gorilla with the smash hit video game Donkey Kong Country. The success of that game led to multiple sequels and spin-offs, merchandise, and even a French sketch show that featured motion-captured Donkey Kong characters interacting with real people and real environments. So, in today's video, I'm going to be going over the history of Donkey Kong and his multiple rises and falls that somehow led to this insane TV show, and his current revival era after years of dormancy. My name's Shoopy Doopy, this is the Shoopy Doopy Show, and without further ado, let's make like a banana and start the video.
DKTV.
The origins of Donkey Kong are kind of a cosmic coincidence to begin with. You see, in 1980, Nintendo created this arcade game, Radar Scope, hoping that it would be a hit, but they were only able to sell about a third of their inventory, leaving them stuck with millions of dollars of unsold arcade cabinets and on the verge of financial ruin. So, they came up with the idea to reprogram these machines into a hopefully more popular game and assigned a young Shigeru Miyamoto to design a new game that would work on these failed arcade cabinets. He came up with the idea to make a Popeye game where you play as Popeye and run and jump and climb ladders. However, licensing with the Popeye people fell through, so Miyamoto quickly reskinned the characters into his own OCs. Olive Oil became Pauline, Bluto became a giant gorilla, and Popeye became an Italian carpenter called Jumpman. The arcade game was called Donkey Kong after the titular gorilla, and upon release, the game was a massive success. Can you imagine how different the world would be if we got a Popeye game instead? We'd be watching the Popeye animated movie, going to Super Popeye World, and playing Bluto Bonanza. Instead, we just got this creepy live-action Popeye movie with Robin Williams.
I'm Popeye, the sailor, and I am what I am, what I am, what I am.
By the time Mario made the jump onto home consoles on the NES, Donkey Kong was replaced with a new villain, King Koopa, or Bowser. And for years, it seemed like Nintendo was done with DK, satisfied with Mario as their mascot and Bowser as their main villain. That is, until 10 years later, when Donkey Kong Country came out for the Super Nintendo in 1994. This was the first Donkey Kong game to be made not by Nintendo, but instead by a British video game company called Rare. Nintendo was so impressed with their 3D graphic capabilities that they granted them the license to use their Donkey Kong character and invent a whole new world for him to inhabit. As you can see, DK got a significant redesign. He's much more buff and tough looking than Miyamoto's original cartoony design. It was the 90s, baby. Everything had to be extreme.
Check it out, Extreme Center!
This game was another massive success, with critics praising its groundbreaking 3D visuals and fantastic music by composer David Weiss. And this kicked off the Kong mania of the 1990s. Nintendo immediately greenlit a sequel to the game that introduced even more Kongs and Kremlings. They ported the games to Game Boy so you could play Donkey Kong on the go. Diddy Kong got his own kart racing game on the N64, and Donkey Kong finally made the jump into full 3D in Donkey Kong 64, which was the collectathon to end all collectathons. There was a Donkey Kong manga, a Donkey Kong card game, endless merchandise, and it was in this environment of peak monkey mania that a small animation studio in France called Media Lab acquired the rights to produce a Donkey Kong Country TV series, which is how we got this.
Look at me, I can dance so gracefully. Gotta have some rhythm just to make the scene.
The Donkey Kong Country series follows DK and his fellow Kongs on Congo Bongo Island, where they live and try to protect the Crystal Coconut from the evil King K. Rool. the show was motion capture animated in a process that took 2 people to drive the animations. One person would perform the body movements, while the other would control the facial animations in real time, which is why it looks like this.
Anyone can do it, anyone can dance. My moves will hypnotize you, put you in a trance.
The first episode produced was titled Bad Hair Day, and is a pretty good encapsulation of what a typical episode of the show looks like. King K. Rool tries to steal the crystal coconut, but DK stops him, so he comes up with a plan to create a robot version of DK's humanoid girlfriend Candy Kong to cut DK's hair, thus causing him to lose his strength, much like the story of Samson and Delilah from the Bible.
If your hair was cut off, you'd lose your strength? What?
Oh, also when they create the robot version of Candy, she instantly starts singing this sensual song, because this show also has musical numbers in every episode.
My charm and good looks drive all the apes insane.
With DK bald and weakened, K. Rool is able to easily steal the coconut, so Funky Kong flies DK out to his banana plantation to eat bananas and regain his strength. This obviously works, and with DK's strength regained, he's able to kick the coconut back to Cranky and easily defeat the Kremlings, saying his iconic catchphrase, Banana Slamma. In the end, DK celebrates with his girlfriend Candy, but there are 2 of them, and he picks the wrong one, and her head explodes.
What the?
In the second episode, Cranky invents a potion to make himself younger, but DK also drinks it and turns into this creepy-looking baby DK, so Diddy heads out to find an antidote and sings this song in an extremely high-pitched falsetto voice.
Get out of my way, 'cause Diddy's coming through.
Eventually the potion wears off and DK beats up the Kremlings again. Banana Slamma, you get the idea. The third episode is where things get really interesting, because this episode starts off with a banger pirate rock song sung by the Crocodile Captain Scurvy about how the crystal skull is his birthright and he's coming back to take it.
Scurvy, I wish you'll ever born. When the coconut is mine, then you'll feel his pirate sword.
The pirates steal the coconut and kidnap DK and Diddy on their ship, but luckily this little croc offers to help them out if they help him get his teeth back. In song, of course.
Scurvy took my teeth 'cause he's afraid of me. He knows I'll eat everything I see.
So DK and Diddy escape, the little blue croc eats the ship, and DK and Diddy enjoy a beautiful sunset back on shore. The fifth episode is significant because it gives us this iconic shot of DK's backside. In this episode, K. Rool is framing DK so that no one likes him and he's kicked off the island. This episode also finally introduces Diddy's girlfriend, Dixie,
I'll walk the rest of the way with my buddy Dix.
and when they're alone, this Kremling does a perfect impression of DK to hit on Dixie in his voice.
Aw, you hook up with somebody, DK?
Hey, what about you, Dixie? Little Dixie Doodle, you are fine.
Huh?
With all the Kongs against DK, he banishes himself to the White Mountains, where we get this incredible ballad sung beautifully by Donkey.
Once I was the ape of the hour, they think I'm a coward, an absolute zero. I'm nobody's hero.
So then Cranky astral projects himself to ask DK for help. DK eats some bananas, heads down the mountain, and defeats the Kremlings. Banana Slamma. The sixth episode is more of the same. The Kremlings steal the coconut, DK fights to get it back, but this one is significant as DK and Candy sing the song, Our Love is Stronger Than a Golden Banana, and it's so good that even K. Rool gets into it.
Can't you see we're meant to be? Our love is stronger than a golden banana. Our love is stronger than a golden banana. Stronger than a golden banana.
Episode 11 revolves around a dance competition on Congo Bongo, where the winner gets a wish from the crystal coconut.
Anyone can do it. Anyone can dance. My moves will hypnotize you, put you in a trance.
I noticed in this episode they're starting to have a lot more fun with the camera angles and movements, compared to the long static shots of the early episodes of the series. The last episode animated by Media Lab to air was episode 26, The Legend of the Crystal Coconut, featuring the song Gotta Get It Back, where the characters are all singing about getting the crystal coconut back, and I feel it's a pretty good encapsulation of the entire series, as almost every single episode revolved around someone stealing the crystal coconut and someone else trying to get it back.
Gotta bring it back.
Gotta get it
Gotta
back.
bring it back. Gotta scuff it back.
But that wasn't the only Donkey Kong series that Media Lab made. No. Because at the same time that Donkey Kong Country was airing, they also created another show exclusively for French audiences called La Planeta de Donkey Kong, or Donkey Kong Planet. DK Planet was a programming block hosted by CG Donkey Kong and French actress Melanie Angeli, in which they would sing and dance in between other cartoons. Kind of like Cartoon Fridays or Toonami back in the day, only with Donkey Kong instead. However, after the first season, Melania left the show, probably over creative differences with her co-host.
Ouais, non mais espèce de gros bêta de gorille, tu sais ce que ça veut dire un cajot?
Attention.
So they rebranded the show as DKTV, where the Donkey Kong characters would be retextured in different costumes and act out skits and music videos on live-action backgrounds. It's insane.
5. Ah non, je me suis trompé, c'est pas 5.
They parody zombie movies, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, The X-Files, Toy Story 2, and whatever the heck this is.
Pour le foot, laisse béton, on va te prendre pour un ballon. Pour le foot, laisse béton, on va te prendre pour un ballon. Fais pas ci, fais pas ça. Pour le skate, c'est râpé, t'es trop lourd, tu vas tomber.
It's like a fever dream watching clips from this show, especially since I don't speak French. But I gotta say, it is a very creative use of the Kong assets. And they even claim that this is the first real-time motion capture character on TV. And I believe them. Also, shout out to Carlito, who made an awesome video on this show. I'll link it down below. Check it out.
Les vacances sur DKTV.cool, y a pas à dire, c'est géant!
There was also a second season of the Donkey Kong Country TV series, but sadly, it was no longer animated by the French Media Lab, and instead was animated by Hongguang Animation in Taiwan. The lively and uncanny motion capture performances were replaced with stilted, key-framed animation. And it just doesn't hit the same, man.
You're making a movie! Best news I've ever heard!
In one of the final episodes of the series, Donkey Kong wishes he had never been born, envisioning a world without DK and singing the soulful ballad, If I Wasn't Around.
They'd be better off if I wasn't around.
This also served as a foreboding message of the Kong family future, as just a year later in 2002, Rare was bought by Microsoft, thus ending their fruitful partnership with Nintendo of almost a decade, and officially ending the Kong craze of the 90s. From there, Donkey Kong would enter a dark period throughout the 2000s, in which there were no new mainline Donkey Kong games. He would still show up as a playable character in the Mario Sports and Party games, and even starred in a few spin-offs like Donkey Konga or King of Swing, but it was never the same after Rare left. Years later, Donkey Kong returned in Donkey Kong Returns. And this is a fantastic game, bringing back the gameplay of the original series and even improving on a lot of aspects. But there was still something missing. The villains of this game were these tiki guys that looked more like they belonged in a Crash Bandicoot game than a Donkey Kong game.
We gotta help Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong recover their precious banana hoard from the villainous Tiki Cat tribe.
4 years later, they released a sequel, Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, which is another fantastic game. But again, the villains are lacking. Where is the Kremlin King? This would be like if Nintendo made a Mario game without Bowser. It's just weird. And while Nintendo seemed to have forgotten about DK's greatest rival, the fans did not. Because in 2015, Nintendo created an official Smash ballot that allowed users to type in what characters they most wanted to see in the next Smash Bros. Game. And 3 years later, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate was released with the catchphrase, "Everyone is here," referring to the fact that every character from every previous Smash Bros. Game would be playable in this, as well as many of the most voted characters from the Smash ballad. And that's how we got this. That's right, after years of neglect, King K. Rool finally made his triumphant return as DK's rival in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. But then, just as it seemed DK and K. Rool were back together and better than ever, they vanished once again, with no new mainline Donkey Kong game since Tropical Freeze in 2014. But throughout that time, the fans continued to keep Donkey Kong Country alive. In 2021, animator Alex Henderson teamed up with Bootleg Dubs and Napalm Records to create Curse of the Crystal Coconut, a fan film animated music video to Ailstorm's cover of Pirate's Scorn from the pirate episode of Donkey Kong Country. The music and animation are so good in this, and the short is filled with references to the TV show and video games, with the pirate crew plundering Donkey Kong Island and Crocodile Isle to steal back the Crystal Coconut once and for all. That same team followed it up a year later with an even more ambitious short film, Return to Crocodile Isle, that was an original villain song for King K. Rool, and they even brought back the original voice actors from the animated series to perform.
Don't smile at this crocodile.
This short is a love letter to the original series and a celebration of K. Rool's grand return to Nintendo in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. These are both incredible short films, and I highly recommend them.
Any big, scaly villains you feel deserve a special shout-out? Bowser?
Return to Crocodile Isle could also be considered a final send-off to Donkey Kong's iconic rare design, because around this same time in 2023, we got the Super Mario Bros. Movie, which featured a redesigned DK for the first time since Donkey Kong Country in 1994, with Donkey Kong and Mario's creator Shigeru Miyamoto personally overseeing the redesign of his original character to make him more expressive and closer to his original vision of the silly ape.
I said simmer down! That means you, Diddy Kong!
Sorry.
And that brings us to 2025, where Nintendo announced Donkey Kong Bonanza for the Switch 2. And it appears his redesign is here to stay, with DK looking more cartoony and expressive than ever before. This time he's teaming up with a young Pauline instead of kidnapping her like in the original arcade game. And while the main antagonists of this game seem to be the evil Kongs of Void Co., some eagle-eyed fans have noticed that there may be some hints that maybe, just maybe, the Kremlin King may rise again.
I'm not any less convinced that Kremlings are in fact in this game.
Definitely gave me King K. Rool vibes, in particular with the reptilian look and the, the kind of crocodile-like face almost.
When we look closer at these guys, they have very similar proportions to the Kremlings, as many people have noticed.
Even the statue that Grumpy Kong builds looks like a goofy caricature of King K. Rool, doesn't it? I mean, it's even got the liquid gold crown on his head.
Crocoid skeletons not only have the same proportions as the Kremlings, they also have the same stance. Thanks to certain instances in Mario Strikers and Donkey Kong Country, we can see what Kremling skeletons looked like in the past.
This weird plant thing straight up looks reptilian, or at least green reptile type skin, along with claws that seem like they could be very similar to, again, King K. Rool. Look at that, like his hand claws. In fact, even reminded me more specifically of his feet, which, by the way, don't ever Google King K. Rool feet. I made that mistake. I won't ever do it again.
That's about all I've got for today. Thank you so much if you made it to the end of the video. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe if you want to support the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much. Goodbye.
You bit to me.